Hey there, Brian here, or BMVoices if you know me from around town. Once again, I want to thank you for watching and for being loyal little gnomes and halflings, dwarves and elves, humans and half-orcs alike. If you like the stories we're reading out and you want to share yours with us, please do so in the comments below, because we're always looking for more content to read and to share with the world. So, you never know if we'll decide to read yours out, but give us your best and write them as best as you can so it stands out and makes us fall in love with it, and who knows? You might get to hear it live. And now, without further interruption, D&D players, what legendary move in a campaign will live on forever in infamy? Part 4. I was playing a wild elf ranger who had red dragons as his first favored enemy. During their travels, there was a loud tussling that could be heard in the distance. They got to a point where they could see off in the distance a battle between a dozen or so gold dragons and likewise age in numbers red dragons. Somehow, the eldest gold manages to invoke the avatar of Bahamut, who upon arrival massacres the lesser reds. The oldest one flees in the fight, gaining great distance before the golds can recuperate and lay chase with any kind of hope of catching up. My ranger wasn't having any of this. He raises his composite longbow, not even magical, just a basic weapon, and calls upon his goddess. Now, mind you, this entire time of playing him, everything I had done with him, every enemy he laid down, he drew his goddess's symbol in the ground and said a prayer to her. He was a very devout ranger, almost to the point of putting the local druids to shame. In this moment, he called to her, goddess of nature, to guide his arrow to smite that which lay waste to all life it touches. Natural 20. He even rolled percentile dice for the goddess to respond and got like a 95% yes. This dragon was easily 5 to 10 miles away, and there was a 0 infinite amount of zero chance in the 9 hells this shot would have ever worked. But those dice rolls took over. DM stares at me, completely dumbfounded that in this moment, this devotion was about to pay off. He tells me that my ranger feels as if nature itself responds. Every plant and animal within a mile radius devotes some of its own energy. Think Spirit Ball from Dragon Ball Z is how he put it. The arrow snaps out of the bow, reaches the apex of its flight, then glows bright white and shoots to the red dragon like a piercing white laser beam and takes the damn thing's head clean off. He hit his knees. He was drained and hit his knees. He pulled his dagger and drew her emblem in the ground much larger than before, for this is where she stood, and he knew it. She was here, and everyone would know it. He drove the dagger to the hilt into the dirt and carved away, saying his blessing and his thanks to her. When he was done, the symbol glowed for a moment, then became rock. It was now permanent. Afterwards, his bow gained a blessing, an enchantment of +2, as well as any time a crit happened, the arrow would become a natural animal that would harness the earth spirit and fire a beam of devastating damage to the target. He also gained like 3 levels. Our crew, consisting of a half-elf wizard, me, a dragonborn paladin, a half-orc fighter, a halfling cleric, and a high-elf bard, killed a frog in the swamp, and it haunts us to this day. Okay, we were leaving a town that I had accidentally committed domestic terrorism in, story for another day, and came across a giant frog that I named Joseph. There was another one that I named Jesus. He was crushed by a tree after a T-Rex ate our last cleric. Again, a story for another day. Our paladin attempted to tame it by doing the toothless dragon taming hand-on-hand technique. It worked for like 10 seconds until he tried to ride it. It freaked out a little, but that was enough for our cleric to freak out and cast Toll of the Dead. The spell, in the DM's own words, Thanos snapped half of the frog's body. Cue the rest of the party screaming in anguish. So what does the cleric do after that? Is it A, try and heal it, B, run away to hide his shame, or C, cast Toll of the Dead again? Oh, please let it be C. If you guessed C, you would be correct. Oh, fucking score! Thanos snapping the other half of its body, leaving its head and a weak skeleton of the giant frog body. The paladin ended up mercy killing Joseph. It was a quiet walk out of that swamp. We still joke about that and blame it on the paladin to mess with him. I had a friend tell me about a time he played a kender wild mage. His kender also had the cloak of many things. So, his party encountered the big bad guy while adventuring through a forest. The big bad guy was a giant worm dragon. My friend's kender was second in the initiative roll, and he decided to use his cloak of many things. He pulled out a 100 by 100 solid cube and dropped it on the head of the worm. The DM had to do the math for over an hour to figure out all of the proper figures on how much damage this Rubik Cube did to the worm. Needless to say, the DM came back shaking his head and glaring at my friend. A 4'0" kender mage took out a great worm big bad dragon with a Rubik Cube type object. The experience alone from that encounter leveled up the party twice, and my friend was able to skin the worm as a free action due to the awesome nature of his unique death blow. At the top of a stone tower, my party and I got into an all-out brawl. A half-orc fighter with a greatsword, I was facing the spiral stairs, fighting off 2 guards. Killed one, allowing my allies to escape down a back route, but the other one kept me trapped. The floor below us exploded and blocked off the back path, so I did the only thing I could think of. Sparta kicking the guard down the stairs, treated as unarmed strike, which killed him, and trying to body surf him down to the lowest floor. 18 to mount, 2 natural 20s to stay on, and a 3 to dismount. Nearly took out 6 people, including the rest of my party, as I crashed through him, fell off and went to 2 HP as we reached the ground floor, and the corpse shot out from under my feet and splattered across the wall. Our forces had been ambushed by a huge contingent of enemies. We were surrounded and desperately defending ourselves. Then, the cavalry comes charging in. But I am not surrendering. I decide to try and grab one of the riders when he comes towards me. Crit. I actually manage to grapple onto the horse behind him. I stab him. Crit. His dead corpse drops off the horse. I try taking control of the horse and driving it into the other remaining conscious PC. Crit. The animal obeys as if it had been raised by me and cuts a bloody line through the enemy, allowing me to reach my comrade. There, he takes the back seat, and together we make our bloody way towards the last circle of defense led by our commanding officer, breaking the enemy lines with sword and chainball, while our speakers blast, "When the winged hussars arrived." In the end, this maneuver gave us just enough time to resist until reinforcements arrived. And that's why, according to our group, one of the symbols of the Templars was 2 knights sharing a horse. We know it's not that, but that was the most epic moment of our Crusades-themed campaigning, so we don't care.
I smite the evil with my backpack.
A dwarf paladin. I was the DM in the party: dwarf paladin, human cleric, elf wizard, human fighter, dwarf fighter, and celestial bloodline human sorcerer/rogue, holy shit, that was a mouthful, had gained the attention of a lieutenant-level henchman of the BBEG. She sent an invitation to parley with her at a house in the city they were in. The party arrives and they are asked to leave their weapons at the door by the orc fighter that was guarding the door. They agreed, but the dwarf paladin maintained possession of his backpack, using some excuse about being on the way to a merchant to sell things, which was true. At this point of the campaign, the paladin was the face of the party and took center seat when the negotiations began. A surreptitious detect evil revealed her alignment as well as the presence of 5 other evil beings within the house. When the henchman got around to her demand, "Give her the party's wizard," the paladin had had enough of her crap. So he grabbed his backpack and said,
I smite the evil with my backpack.
They ended up winning a surprisingly one-sided fight with a combination of the wizard using a wand of web that she hid from the guards to pin the henchman and one of her guards to a wall, and the sorcerer/rogue using suggestion to convince the guard it was the perfect opportunity to cop a feel on his boss, distracting her from casting spells herself. During the fight, the fighters flipped the table and broke legs off to use as clubs, while the wizard was using that wand to keep the guards in the other rooms out. Fight ended with the wizard having enough of the enemy's crap and using chain lightning on them. Good times. Sorry for the book in advance. Hey man, no worry, I love reading the long ones too. You're good. So, our party had been sent to rescue the daughter of a noble from his court mage. We'd gotten fairly lucky on our rolls and knew where they were hiding. We were very close to leveling up to level 10, and the rest of the party figured it would be this fight. But the DM was hinting that maybe rushing in there wasn't a great idea. I couldn't say anything because 1, metagaming, and 2, my character wasn't the most mentally stable fellow, so common sense wasn't his strong suit. So we get to the hideout, bust in, and find the weathered husk of the mage and the daughter radiating power. Turns out the noble neglected to inform about his wife's demonic bloodline, with his daughter being a very powerful sorceress who just needed some training, which she got from the court mage, before draining him of all of his magic and life force, adding it to her own. She is understandably on a power trip. We all have an oh crap moment as it sinks in, we're not ready for this. I do the one thing I can. Fall to my knees and begin weeping with joy, pledging my eternal support to my dark lady. DM is confused as to what we need to roll. Is it performance, deception, or do I genuinely mean what I'm saying? For persuasion, I told him I wasn't sure at the moment, but it didn't matter. I had proficiency in all 3 due to my class and background, and that it was her wisdom against my charisma, which was a lovely 18 by the way, so with proficiency, I had guaranteed a +8 to my roll, so she didn't have the best chance at beating me. I rolled first, got a 17 for a 25, DM didn't even want to roll, saying,
Her wisdom's not great. Unless I get a nat 20, you've got this.
And that is how I became the right-hand man to an evil sorceress. But wait, there's more. I convince her that she should be a Dark Queen. She buys it and teleports the party to her father's court, kills him and most of the guards, with those left swearing allegiance to her, imprisons the rest of my party to execute in the morning, and because she trusts me, I get free reign of the place while she plans her conquest. So, I smuggle a key down to the cells where my party's being kept, go back upstairs, and start talking to my Dark Queen. I tell the DM I'd like to roll to seduce her. DM has come to realize that unless the dice come up bad for me, that she can't beat my charisma. He's also really interested in what my endgame is in all of this. I succeed in seducing her, and I make a point to say, I leave my short sword on the nightstand, but keep my dagger on my belt and my armor on. Then I said, I'd like to use sleight of hand to grab my short sword. She never noticed. Then I said, I'd like to use an attack of opportunity to do a sneak attack. I hit her for 29 damage, and then I asked is she considered grappled or prone, seeing as I'm still on top of her. I know that's not how it works, but we view the rules more as guidelines. The DM laughing,
I guess she's grappled.
She fails to break grapple, hits me, and it hurts. I do another sneak attack, 26, still grappled, but misses the attack, so I hit her again for 20. This time she breaks, but nat 1s her attack roll, and she sets the bed on fire. I managed to get off it unhurt, while she deals herself 15 fire damage. I hide in the smoke and go in for a sneak attack one last time, hit her for 24, and she dies. Meanwhile, my party had made a plan of attack for the next morning with the guards. Morning comes, my party is marched to the execution ground, and the fanfare plays. The people look to the balcony, but the Dark Queen isn't there. No, it's my character, in her dress, fanning himself, holding her head aloft, laughing like the insane murder hobo he was.